Namaskar. Hello and welcome to this penultimate day, the day four of World Education Forum 2024, a journey which we started on 15th of January, straddling the various themes and thematics pertaining to the future of higher education in the country. And this time, the focus, what Rethink India thought about was an inversion of the Anu Bhadra Kratu Vishwantu Yataha aspiration. India for ages has welcomed noble ideas from all directions. But at the World Education Forum 2024, we took a leap of faith and we asked all our eminent galaxy of speakers and intellectuals and thinkers and activists in their own right as to what the world can learn from India at the contemporary era. What are those principles? What are those practices? What are those programs which India can teach to the world at large? There is a lot of talk about India being a Vishwa Guru at some point in time. There were certain dark ages of struggle. But can India of the modern times teach some stuff to the larger world at large? And to our utter astonishment, all our speakers, right from day one, which was about the foundations of the conversations, Professor S.S. Mantha and M. Nageshwara Garu, they brought about a kind of a global educational program. Professor Mantha presented an entire program in value education, especially at the level of higher education when the teenagers have grown to be adolescents and they are marching towards youth. So how the 15 odd values can be impregnated into the youth of today to carve out their professions of future. And throughout our talks in this short prologue, we have been talking about why we came about with this World Education Forum. This is predominantly inspired from a parallel event of a much larger scale in the Alps, in the county of Davos, the World Economic Forum, as we all know about it. For 5 days, global economic leaders, thought leaders, they converge in that small Alps township, and they deliberate upon the futuristic frontiers of a new global world order. We at Rethink India felt that Bharatvarsh has quite a balanced narrative in place. Economics, Artha, is just one of the Purusharthas, and we have an integral quad of Purusharthas where we say that all the human desires, they have to be anchored into dharma, and they have to be aspirational for moksha. It is the fulfillment of these dharma anchored and moksha aspiring desires. The pursuit of artha has to be done. So our Manishis of the year have really given that balanced perspective out there. So in that ambit, Professor S.S. Pantha presented the value education, which is so very important, and he beautifully juxtaposed the apara vidya with the para vidya. M. Nageshwara Garu talked about the purpose and nature of education, and which was very important in our shastras, in our traditional lore. Sa Vidyaya Vimukta. A lot of aspirational aspects have been there, but their operational manifestation into the modern educational system, which can catapult India to a Vikasit Bharat, a kind of an aspiration which we are collectively trying to see forward. And then we moved on to day two, where we talked about the fulcrum of it all. And the fulcrum was how to link higher techno-managerial education with the entrepreneurial space, with the economy per se. Because शिक्षा का अधिष्ठान और हायर शिक्षा का जो अधिष्ठान है, वही अर्थ क्रांति ला सकता है. We had Madam Dr. Glory Surupa, the Honorable Director General of National Institute of MSME, who presented some very glaring statistics. And the focus was primarily on family enterprises. There is a lot of talk about unicorns and decacorns these days, but then Dr. Glory Surupa talked about the baby corns. And when India is aspiring to become the third largest economy on the globe, we brought about examples from the current third largest economy, Germany, where 99.3% of the firms are Mittelstädts, which are the MSMEs, and they contribute some 52% of the German GDP and 70% of the employment. In India, the situation is far lesser, around 27% of the GDP and all. So the thought was to empower these family enterprises, the wisdom which has been learned, linking the traditions with the most modern technological advances. For that, Professor Onkar Singh, the Honorable Kulpati of the Uttarakhand Technological University, he said that there is a kind of an aspirational mismatch somewhere, and a larger canvassing has to be brought about, that life dedicated to bolstering your family enterprises can really pay off in a phenomenal way. Dr. Anirudh Malpani, a doyen in his own right, who is doing a lot of frugal innovations in the space of education, and he had been one of the core criticizing of taking over the edtech space by some big corporations. He really talked about thinking about ourselves. That has to be the purpose of education. And in the most modern era, when technology is giving us so many options, and as we will see today with our league, the quad of phenomenal speakers whom we have this evening, this day four of World Education Forum, as to how the various kalas, various art forms, various domains can be nurtured, and a very fulfilling and fruitful careers can be built around. And that really needs a serious rethinking into the system of education, whatever larger frameworks of a national education policy we have. But institutions can really come out with their own institutional education practices and programs, and faculty members right in their classrooms can really juxtapose that learning with the parents back home. Professor Madam Rajita Kulkarni from Sri Rishi University, the East Coast, Cuttack, she gave a phenomenal pentat of futuristic frontiers, where multi-career operations, and then she brought about how the art of living movement, the philosophy, the foundations of it are unfurling on that educational campus, with the School of Integrative Medicine and a host of other researches in, say, Kathak for that matter. So dance forms are being studied formally under a university umbrella, and Aurobindo Saxena ji came about as to how we can make micro certifications, how we can differentiate the entire higher education space to make it affordable and accessible. And the efficacy of it all is very important. With the kind of GERs we have, 27%. India, the amount of youngsters who are in our higher education campuses, it's the same order of the population of the entire Australia over there. So, in terms of percentages and absolute numbers, how we can put this huge mammoth young force to productive and fruitful vocations, and that remained the conversations on day two. And day three, yesterday, we had the great good fortune of uh, we asked our speakers as to how we can link up. Pradhan Mantri ji on 11th of December came all of a sudden and linked up the entire fifth estate, the academy, the higher education, to take the pledge for a Vikasit Bharat. But then how this pledge will manifest down, it will distill down into concrete programs, how the higher education institutions can extend a helping hand to the local developmental administration. That was a question answered by Madam Nirupma Saundarya Rajan, who had the privilege of working with the former Niti Ayog Vice Chairperson, Professor Rajiv Kumar. Then we had the classic question of language. The larger ambit was localization, regionalization, and multilingualization. They say that innovation is there in every geo-cultural linguistic locale of Bharat. So we had the CEO of Bhashini who said that how artificial intelligence is being used for a foundational level of बोलचाल की भाषा में किस प्रकार से bottom of the pyramid citizens can be interfaced with the government. And Professor V.R. Desai from IIT Dharwad, he talked about the 5 language formula which can connect the entire, I would say, the linguistic space, the Matru Bhasha, the Rajya Bahul Bhasha, the Kshetriya Bhasha, we can say, then the Desh Bahulya Bhasha, which is Hindi, then Vishwa Bahulya Bhasha, which obviously the international language today, the lingua franca is the English, and then finally the classical language, the Pramatra Bhasha, जो मातृभाषा की भी जननी है, the classical Sanskrit out there. So with this 5 language formula, how we can improve upon the national integration, the movement from one locale to other. And with this 3 days of this Gyan Yatra, today we are at a very special session, which is adorned by 4 very eminent personalities, and the core quest, the core thought, what we are presenting, what we are asking them. I would like to welcome Madam Anuradha Goyal, who is a very passionate and very deep, I would say, a custodian of the futuristic frontiers of tourism. If we can say, she's someone who is juxtaposing the classical Tirthatan of Bharat with the Deshatan Paramparas and obviously the most modern Paratan. So I would like to welcome Madam Anuradha Goyal on this day 4 of World Education Forum to receive her illuminations on how tourism can really supercharge the whole economic thought, which is their 5 trillion economy, 3 trillion economy, all that stuff. How this latent power, how this potential of our youth in whatever professions, whatever family businesses they are, can they exponentiate it across to help that larger national goal? Then I would like to welcome Madam Megha Balani, who leads a very unique and differentiated Institute of Music, the Global Music Institute, which is hosted at Greater Noida. And music as a profession, music, apart from the performing sides of it all, the whole aspects of musical engineering, the whole enterprise around music. And then, as Madam Anuradha Goyal would also say, that music is also so very critical part of tourism, the folk music, that the entire economic opportunities, whatever we can leverage over there. And then we have a very veteran with us, Dr. A.T. Kishore, a former Indian Air Force officer, and he's currently the director of Dhanvantri Group of Institutions, the Drone Pilot Academy. So from the natural drones of madhumakhis and all, so drone related stuff in the world of AI, in the world of automation, robotics and all. So this is the first part of it all, and then we would be joined in by Professor Premwat, where we are talking that how to create an inter-institutional connect. Yeah, yeah. So, so this is the first theme what we are trying to ask, that innovative interdisciplinary programs amidst multidisciplinary higher learning ecosystem, catering to the future of work, language and technology, law and technology, arts and technology, cuisine and technology, tourism and technology, so and so forth. So maybe we would like to start off with Dr. A.T. Kishore, who has had a very glorious and a very decorated career in the Indian Air Force. Sir A.T. Kishore was also a part of the Kargil warfare. Some of the issues are classified, so perhaps he would be at a liberty to talk about it, and how the interdisciplinarity for Dr. A.T. Kishore, that the youngsters, especially at the officer cadre level, the students at the graduate level, the aspiration to join the armed forces or the defense frontiers is perhaps not that very high, perhaps because the defense and strategic affairs, they do have a critical component in the national GDP. 6 lakh crore plus is our national defense budget. And they say that space and defense are two very core sectors which drive the future of science and technology. And the applications in these domains, they actually come back to the civil world. And with these fascinating areas, when defense area has been opened up for civil contract, I would say civil firms also, a lot of opening up has happened. So just a kind of, because whatever techno-managerial courses we are studying, how to bolster that fascination for the area of defense, the area of drones, especially even the agro strategic areas. Like there is a large amount of global thought process that how to contain the food supply of nations. So defense is one very intermingling interdisciplinary area which actually encompasses all sectors of a national economy and national life. So I would like to invite Dr. A.T. Kishore to deliver his first address on this panel. Sir.
Aham Dhanyosmi, and it's really so nice that you could articulate all the summary of the program that those who missed might have got a glimpse of it. Thanks a lot. I joined the Indian Air Force in 1991, and it's a short service commission. So after I left, the Kargil took place. So there is a little disconnect in your introduction. So I currently represent drone industry, and I empathize the kind of right from beginning rethink India. What they have been doing is so right. That is not just the technicalities of it, but going back to Indian knowledge system and enticing the youth towards that kind of a broad perspective. So I'm also eager to listen to all other speakers. So I would like to actually give the perspective of, as you have rightly said, how to inspire youth to pick up armed forces career. When you look at now Agnipath and in recent trends, if you see, there are wars going on now, and there will be a time there will be even full scale wars like what we could have seen in or at least we hear about First World War, Second World War. We don't really want the world to be full of wars, but any nation has to defend itself. I just give example of the mindset of Japanese youth. There was a time just before the Second World War is called off. A young armed person will be weeping, and you understand why he is doing so, because he feels that he is not suitable to serve his motherland, that is Japan, on that day because he was not selected for a particular mission, which we all know today in the terminology of drones, like a kamikaze drone. So kamikaze became very popular today. So the mindset of youngster in Japan was, why am I not eligible to serve my motherland today? So if he was allowed, he would take a small plane and hit some installation, and that means it's a suicidal mission, and that's how their mindset was. And I want to also talk about another general in Japan. there was a mosquito bite and the people were having malaria. And this general comes and then takes a number of those chloroquine tablets and gulps it. Normally, one tablet is enough. With that, the people had a kind of a bitterness towards it or don't want to consume. They all took those medicines. So that's how he protected his troops. So there is a lot of things to learn from defense forces. And as our topic is about drones, we for Indians, drones are not new. Even in Ramayana, we heard about Pushpak Vimana. And the question is, some disconnect is there. We don't have the knowledge or wherewithal to realize how at that point of time they had a drone which was like capable of carrying people. Today, just before attending this event, I was in Bureau of Indian Standards discussion about UAV traffic management. So, as a matter of context for the Indian audience, and also there may be some people from abroad in this discussion forum. Recently, Government of India has declared around 1700 plus crore investment that has gone into DRDO towards a very aspirational project named as Tapas has been shelved. And the challenge was to make a UAV which is called MALE, MALE, that is medium altitude, long endurance. And we should not be discouraged by such movements, because when we realize in project management, as most of you would discuss managerial aspects besides technological. So when you know things don't happen, so you have to stop it. That's the cost benefit analysis. So government put a risk analysis and the quality parameters that are expected from that overspent money of around 1700 crores. Initial estimate was 1600 plus. So though we are not supposed to discuss here anything biased or anything controversial, so I want to say that if you divide that amount into, let's say, 8,025 lakhs, 8,000 institutions who are total novices would get an idea about how to assemble a drone and maybe buy some couple of sophisticated drones from Daksha unmanned system and start working on the components and learn the skill of developing drones. So, having said that, for the industry, government has initiated a lot of production linked incentives. They encourage companies like Idea Forge, which is like from college campus of IIT Mumbai, that has become a corporate now, and Garuda Airways. So there are so many good examples, and then there is a drone ecosystem. Drone rules are there, drone training institutions are there. Pilot licensing is given to you after you learn, just like a car driving license. So 10 days of learning, you get 10 years of license. So it is possible to get. And what India is now looking forward to is by 2030, we want to be the dominant player in the drone ecosystem globally. And the workforce would, as we know, India is representing 27% of the youth of the workforce, and that's a dominant economic driver. And as you also mentioned about Davos and World Economic Forum discussion, so the vision 2047 is to take India towards a sustainable economy, and also travel towards the next few years later for the net zero mission that the world has set for sustainable operations. Drone, when you implement a electrical component like a battery driven UAVs, and also on the road, the cars, the fuel, when you remove the diesel and petrol vehicles, this will create a less polluted air environment, and then it will also move towards a more sustainable ecosystem. And eventually, we will make our grid also on green hydrogen, and that should be able to drive the economy more towards the objectives of the globe for climate concerns. So, to talk about defense jobs, I have seen the characteristic difference of defense environments and the outside world. Leave alone financial aspects. If you are inside the defense campus, you are a lot more likely to breathe in, breathe out oxygen, more cleaner environment. It's well maintained, more nature friendly, and highly disciplined systems, you will find everything is in order. So your mind also will be peaceful. So, I mean, your time that you spend in the campus would motivate you to work anywhere, and that would help you to integrate well with the larger Bharat. And also, it's a very good, every small unit of defense, let's say Army, Air Force, Navy, it's like a tiny India, Bharat. So you get to learn like all the languages, and integration happens there. And so from school itself, you pick up a lot of skills, and naturally, once you are groomed there, you have more likelihood of getting a job in armed forces. And so it's not the only career, but afterwards you will have two, three regimes. Let's say armed tenure will be one third of your total career. Then, based on that, you can even participate in aerospace, defense, or related fields like DRDO and other research organizations. And so, it's a very good. Those of you who are listening, who are amongst the younger lot, you should think about joining defense forces. I think with this, I would like to actually listen to learned scholars, like a lot of arts and other tourism related things. And thanks very much once again for your excellent summary of all the things about world education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. And now, what connects drones to the lovely word of tourism? I think Madam Anuradha Goyal would agree that the massive air views, the I would say the aerial views of the various geocultural locales has been made possible because of drones. And as Dr. A.T. Kishore said, that after becoming Agniveers, after your career in defense, you can think of perhaps after defending your soil, you can think of decorating your soil, being a son of the soil over there, and get into the domain of tourism. And so वो भी माटी की खुशबू को जो आह्वान करके कि आइए और हमारे इस संस्कृति के साथ तादाद में रखिए. So I would like to invite, I would like to request Anuradha ma'am क्योंकि पर्यटन जो है भारत का प्राण है. वह जो कहते हैं कि संस्कृति का जो अधिष्ठान है, भी if there is some metric of assimilating the global domestic cultural value, I think India would have been in the top league of it all. और संस्कृति का जो I would say the tasting of that culture, I think tourism accentuates that cultural tourism largely distinctive from the business tourism part of it all. So how uh, the domain of tourism can be shown to the higher education graduates as an interdisciplinary space where they can take it up tourism in a big way. Tourism still it is seen more as a governmental push कि भाई infrastructure होगा, law and order होगा. That is one part of the story. A lot of things are happening. But what at a micro level? What at a MSME level? I might be running a family enterprise of a restaurant. How can I add up into the larger matrix of tourism? How can I become an ambassador? जैसे आप हरिद्वार जाइए तो चोटी वाला का रेस्टोरेंट हैज एडेड टू द ब्रांड इंडेक्स ऑफ टूरिज्म कि मुझे हरिद्वार या ऋषिकेश इसीलिए जाना है कि मुझे चोटी वाला के यहाँ खा के आना है. सो आई वुड लाइक टू फ्रॉम हर वास्ट इलेबोरेट आई वुड से डिफरेंशिएटेड एंड डाइवर्स एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ मैडम अनुराधा गोयल. और बहुत ही जो मैंने आपके परिचय में शुरू में भी कहा कि पर्यटन का जो दो सांस्कृतिक भाव है, तीर्थाटन द चार धाम यात्रा वी ऑल टॉक अबाउट, वी हैव अ डिफरेंट वे ऑफ ट्रैवलिंग बिकॉज भारत का कण कण पवित्र है. सो मेंटेनिंग दैट प्योरिटी, मेंटेनिंग दैट लाइक अयोध्या कॉन्सिक्रेशन वी आर ऑल विटनेसिंग ऑन दिस कमिंग मंडे. तो वहां का जो पर्यटन का स्वरूप है, सो इन दैट इंडी थॉट प्रोसेस एंड इन डिटेल्स इज परहैप्स द प्लेटफॉर्म which pronounces to the word about India's geocultural locales from an Indian's point of view. भारत को बहुत ही विदेशियों ने पढ़ा है, लिखा है, और उन्हीं के अनुसार हम भारत को जानने का प्रयास करते हैं. बट देन रीड मैडम अनुराधा गोयल एंड हर इन डिटेल्स कि एक भारतीय की दृष्टि से, एक सनातनी आध्यात्मिक भारतीय की दृष्टि से भारत क्या है. So with this, ma'am, we would like to receive your benediction for today's evening.
Namaste. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak on a topic that is very, very close to my heart. That topic that I um, almost live. So tourism is like an umbrella industry. it can showcase every other aspect of the country, be it business, be it culture, be it history, be it heritage, be it spirituality, be it anything. It's like an music, art, culture, anything. Even industry, even handicrafts, even your ancient techniques like your weaving techniques or your brass making techniques, or even your new techniques, drone making techniques. Why not? So tourism is an umbrella. So it by nature it is an industry which can encompass anything and everything. You go to a destination and you can see it through million lenses. You can see it for nature, you can see it for anything that interests there. You can go back in time. Places like India have been lived for, we don't know, thousands of years. Let's take the city of Delhi where you live. You can find Mahabharat era spots in Delhi, and you can find very futuristic spots in Delhi, and everything in between. So you can have a lot of time and space travel that you can make people do. But having said that, the way and I'm going to, since your forum is called Education Forum, I'm going to talk about the tourism education, where I'm quite disappointed, and I'm a lone voice, not associated with anybody. Uh, our tourism courses are still teaching people how to hold a wine glass. Now, how to a hotel that should be designed exactly how the Europeans designed hotels in 19th century. Uh, and they refuse to move on. They simply refuse to move on. Probably because nobody wants to take the giant step of changing the curriculum, or are asking, at a couple of tourism institutes where I was invited, I had asked them that your chart showing different type of glasses, why does it not have a lassi ka glass or a coffee ka dabra or a kulhad? Why are you just showing different types of wine glasses in India? How many people care about it, and how many people come to India for wine? It's not a wine producing land. Okay, so and many other things. I'm just taking wine as an example. So in the education sector, the whole curriculum of our tourism institutes need Indianization. And here, when I say Indianization, I'm not even talking as a patriot or as a nationalist, which I am, but I'm not talking at that. I'm talking purely from a business perspective. Any tourist coming to India comes to see India. They are not coming to see a piece of Europe in India. For that, they'll go to Europe. So we have to create, I think Indian tourism industry has the biggest potential for innovation. We have to innovate products, we have to innovate experiences, we have to show India. And when I say India, I would say if I'm in Kumaon, then I need to see the Kumaoni culture. If I am in uh, Tulunad, I need to see Tulunad. I don't need to see some version of Rajasthan. Okay, so and definitely not some version of Europe. Our hotels need a huge upgrade. All the hotels are designed exactly how the hotel industry, how they were at the beginning of hotel industry. You go to any hotel, you cannot make out which city, which place you are in. You could be anywhere. Why should that be? If I'm in Kashi, I should know, every corner should tell me I'm in Kashi. Second, third, these days spiritual tourism is kind of buzzword and it's being promoted big time. But we must understand that spiritual tourism is an oxymoron. Uh, the 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 travel to spiritual places for spiritual benefits is called pilgrimage or tirth yatra, and the requirements of a tirth yatri are very different from the uh, requirements of a tourist who is going there for leisure and pleasure. So understanding that difference, there's only one university who's engaged me to teach a course on yatras, and that's thankfully BHU. No other university is even touching the topics like this here. So just So there is a lot of uh, big ticket changes that need to happen in the tourism curriculum, even in the mannerisms that we are teaching. Why are we telling people that you have to say good evening, good morning? Why can't we use the local
Mm.
greeting wherever you are? It's not too difficult to pick up. All of us pick up on our travels. Or the small little men, we have to we don't have to do incremental innovation when it comes to hotel designs. We have to think completely new, saying that if somebody comes to this place, what is it that they are looking for? We need to redesign our dharamshalas, bring back the culture of dharamshalas, and uh, but uh, reinvent them for modern needs. So our dharamshalas do need an internet connection. They do need clean, neat, clean toilets. They do need safety stuff. They do need some kind of a validation if they are community dharamshalas, and we really need to think about it. If people feel safe and secure in community dharamshalas, we need to have those community dharamshalas. So we need to have a state of the art dharamshalas. And when I say the reason I'm using the word dharamshala is because it has the word dharma in it.
Mm.
It doesn't mean it will not come at a ticketed price for, and it will be available to anybody and everybody who wants to use it. Unlike a hotel, which becomes where the entry barrier is its ticket price. So, and we need a lot of these dharamshalas in the pilgrimage centers that we are promoting big time. So, there is a lot of scope. At the same time, we have to be very, very careful about over tourism. There are ample pockets in India which are suffering from over tourism. You know that if there is a long weekend, all roads to Shimla Manali are clogged. If there is a long weekend, all the flights to Goa are booked. You cannot get out of Goa end of year, even if you want to. The ticket prices are simply unaffordable, and there can be emergency situations where you have to travel. And locally, the culture of these places is suffering. uh, I'm not even getting into the unethical stuff that happens. Even with all the family travel, ethical travel that's happening, there has to be a balance in our tourism places. Any one place hits, and then everybody wants to go there. Why? Because is it the lack of places we have? Not really. We have ample places. Is it lack of facilities? Maybe. Is it lack of promotion? Maybe. Is it lack of facilities to reach there? Maybe. So these are, yeah, there are few parameters that we need to look at it, but balance in tourism is something that we need to built in. If we keep creating pockets where over tourism becomes a problem, then we are killing the culture of the place. We're literally killing the culture of the place. We must do tourism to an extent that it does not alter the innate nature of the destination.
Mm.
Right. So there's a lot of, I mean, I can speak a lot on it, but these are some of the key points that we need to take care. I don't know if anybody is listening. I haven't seen anybody interested or anybody interested in listening to this. I have said I will teach a course on pilgrimage and Tirth Yatras, and I have enough material on them, and I need people who can help me do research. I haven't received a support as yet.
No, but apart from a state agency, see, government somewhere or the other in India, the thought is, okay, it is all a government's business. But where do you see the entrepreneurs? Because a lot of unemployment is out there. Everyone or anyone, as you said, that tourism is an all-encompassing industry. So it anyone who is in any micro enterprise, how it can be transcended to become a tourism enterprise, and what the individual youngsters at the level of education, at the level of whatever startup developments people are talking about, uh, what I would say blueprint you would suggest on that?
Tourism is a very low entry barrier space.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't need a huge capital unless you are setting up infrastructure. You don't need a huge capital. That's why you see, in fact, to its advantage, this industry is made up of many, many, many small tour operators, tour agencies. instead of being dominated by one or two uh, big ticket guys. So it's a very, very low entry barrier, but the challenge I see is that people start doing the same thing that is working. It's
Okay.
like low hanging fruits. So
Mm,
sell rooms, sell flights, that's where you stop. You
mhm.
stop innovating. And when they innovate also, they test it for one trip, they test it for two trips. If it doesn't work, they just give up instead of saying, okay, what is it not working? How can I tweak it? Can I can I wait for 10 iterations before I give up? So,
Okay.
and for that, maybe they need a bit of mentoring, they need a bit of hand holding,
Mhm.
a bit of a push or a support. But otherwise, it's a very, very, very low entry barrier. The reason I was talking about the bigger thing is because uh, unless there is a structural change, the small entrepreneur will not be able to make a big dent. They will
Mhm.
continue to do the same thing. So, and that's what they are doing.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
there are enough things you can do, like uh, a city like Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Calcutta, or even our top 50 cities, because our 50th city is also a big enough city.
Mhm.
Um, we don't have walking tours. I mean, if I say we don't have, you'll come out with one name. In Delhi, maybe 10 people do it. But Delhi, in easily 100 people can do it. 100 to 200 people who will further employ maybe 10, 20 people can easily do it. Walking trails, you can do it. You can curate experiences that people would love to have. So if I today come to Delhi and I want to see, let's say, a Kathak performance,
Mhm.
I don't have a venue. I mean, it has to be coincidental that it's happening somewhere and I come to know of. We don't even have information portals which tell us exactly what is happening where and when.
Mhm.
A small country like Sri Lanka, they have such a beautifully packaged, a song and dance musical program which showcases all their culture. And every website of their, every tour operator of theirs will tell you about it. It's easy for you, and they make it this way that you travel through the day, and an evening when you want to relax, you can sit back and enjoy the program. I haven't seen, except maybe in Kochi, they have a Kathakali performance which you can watch every day as a tourist. I don't know of any tourist focused cultural activities happening anywhere in.
Out of your experience, like we are listening a lot about startups and all that stuff. So they're in a very, I would say, linear dimensions of, say, a travel portal.
Yes.
They're merging or hotel reservation portals. But tourism is a multifaceted experience which has to juxtapose everything. So
So
how
if
to?
you look at all the portals, basically, essentially, what a travel agent is doing offline, that has gone online.
Mhm.
Incidentally, tourism portals are the biggest e-commerce portals. I mean,
Mhm.
in terms of e-commerce percentage, the travel is the biggest, has the biggest pie, because flights are all booked online, trains are all booked online, hotels are all booked online. So that part they have done. But are they really innovating? Is one portal different from others?
Mhm.
They are essentially competing on price
Mhm.
or inventory. They are not competing on. Can you say that a Make My Trip is better than Clear Trip is better than Ease My Trip is better than this? No.
True.
I would like to come in here, ma'am, that you've raised a very, very important point about the tourism portals. I mean, we see Incredible India, the state governmental portals. And but an information about the cuisine, the dresses, the dance, the folklore, the music, the culture, the spirituality, something which is a combination, a complete comprehensive vision, and a kind of an image of the
Yes.
place, the state needs to be presented. And that's a very, very
That has to be done. For example, let's say now Ayodhya is going to be a big tourist destination. Now, yes, the temple is built, a lot of infrastructure will be built, every hotel chain is there. But what I want as a devotee, or even as a curious traveler, is that I should be able to go and listen to Ram Katha there. I should be able to watch a Ram Leela there. So I'll tell you my experience about 5 years back in Kurukshetra. Now they've developed, a lot of concrete has been put there. Literally ugly concrete has been put there. But you can't find a copy of Bhagavad Gita there. And they celebrate a huge Gita festival when, people from all over the world are flown there and a lot of hoo-ha is made. But on the other days, you can't find a copy of Bhagavad Gita there.
Remember,
Why there should be, it should be full of Gita everywhere.
So what you are talking about, these are the manifestations of a living society.
I'm talking about soft infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So you're building hard infrastructure because that shows, it's easy to make. A lot of people would say, that's where the money is made by everybody. So you just create some hard infrastructure and leave it there. But hard infrastructure is dead unless there is a accompanying soft infrastructure.
But then how to develop that soft infrastructure? Because the bottom of the pyramid society, which was living that, because that is the living experience which people are witnessing, not very many business models for support, economic support for them has been there. The traditional folk singers, perhaps, they're reducing for that matter. So what do you think should be the strategy?
So that is what the entrepreneurs need to play the role of a typical baniya. So you look at these things as product, package it, work with the traditional artists, and be a connector to the tourist.
Okay.
So what does a typical trader do? You identify a product and you help it reach the person who needs it. It's a basic baniya model. But you have to be persistent, because when you're creating a market for a new product, it takes some time for the market to pick up. And you have to, of course, use all the tools, which I think this industry is good at using. Social media, digital tools, all that this industry is quite good at doing.
So you are basically suggesting that apart from selling merely the hotel rooms or some very fixed travel tickets and all, an entire gamut of experiences has to be projected and sold.
Right. So for example, I'll tell you some of these, and let me give you some examples which have been successful. So if you go to the central Indian jungles, all over central India, a lot of luxury lodges have come up. Now, one is they provide you luxury at the lodge. But the more important and the most enticing part of their offering is the soft infrastructure, the naturalist services that they give you, where they they help you understand the forest.
Okay.
So I have a feeling, and this is just a gut feel, that this blind consumption based tourism, where you are just saying, come to our hotel, don't step out of our hotel, or spend all your money in our hotel and go back, may not have too long a life.
Okay.
Because how much can you consume? Tourism essentially is to to step out of your time and space and experience something that is unlike you, to learn about people, to try different experiences. So if you restrict it to hotels and resorts, should be a medium for you to experience the destination, not destination in themselves.
Okay.
I mean, this is my opinion.
Yeah. But then, whatever. So the soft infra is outside the hotels and resorts. Hotels and resorts
It
are
can
the.
be within the hotels also. Sometimes it can be within the hotels. I mean, if you go to Rajasthan, and Rajasthan tourism has done very well.
Okay.
Nowhere in Rajasthan you ever feel that you are not in Rajasthan. They've not really lost it like other places. So when you go there, you will hear songs, you will hear dance. If you go repeatedly, it may it may look like a repetition, but if you visit it once time, they're doing a great job. They're doing great jobs of packaging their fairs and festivals. For example, the Pushkar Mela, which is so popular. Almost every Tirtha Kshetra in India has the same Mela across India on the same dates. But nobody else has packaged it as Rajasthan tourism. So I think a lot of people can go on a study tour in Rajasthan, and they're doing a pretty good job of.
And I think that's where from the higher education, the students and the universities can be kindled and sensitized on the locale where they are located. So where we talk of edu destinations, and if a student is taking admission, say in Rajasthan, or Jodhpur, so he should that sensitization, to create student armed forces, for working on portals, sensitizing them, creating that.
Does it work?
Does it work?
I'm not too big a fan of teaching too much.
Mhm.
I'm a fan of igniting curiosity and then let the creativity of the next generation take its own wings.
Mhm.
Because all said and done, I am limited by my own life experience. While the next generation, why should that next generation be limited with what I know? I should be able to ignite their curiosity. I should be able to teach them how to look at a destination from 20 different angles.
Okay.
And then it's up to them. Every next generation is smarter than the older generation. So why should they be limited by us? They are far better connected. They have all the information at the fingertips. We still do not see internet based information as much as the younger generation. So I would say you have to guide them and then let them explore their own curiosity. I think we are teaching too much. We are trying to teach everything. You can't teach everything. There's a very minuscule part that you can teach, basics. After that, students should be able to learn or create.
Ma'am, you mentioned about Rajasthan Tourism, which is obviously a state agency, and we in India think that tourism development perhaps is the perhaps only the state agency can do it because a lot of governmental intervention is required. Do you have examples of association-driven tourism development of some destinations where
So
a
a
group has
lot of
come from?
rural tourism initiatives are community based. I've seen some very successful in Maharashtra.
Okay.
Um, okay. Uh, some of them are, but they are very, very local and not making as big an impact. And by the way, in Rajasthan also, it's not the state which is doing it. It's
Mm-hmm.
the local entrepreneur. I mean, Rajasthan is the state of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
By default, it's the state of Marwadis and entrepreneurs. So it's the erstwhile royalty. It's
Mm-hmm.
the businessman community which is doing it. I don't think state tourism may have a role to play, but it's not that they are very different from other states. The state tourism hotels of Rajasthan tourism are not great. The best state tourism hotels probably are with Madhya Pradesh. So not necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
So Rajasthan it's all driven by entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. So as you said that very small level community driven initiatives are not so very much. I would say the zebra enterprises, the community driven ones, they can't scale up. So
See, scaling up, so to understand tourism is rooted in a place.
mhm, mhm,
So they can be in their place, they can be heroes, like the Chotiwala you mentioned.
mhm,
You know, so Chotiwala is tied to Rishikesh in my
mhm,
head.
mhm, mhm,
Right now, they may have 20 other outlets in Delhi and here and there, but they are rooted in Rishikesh for our generation. For next generation, they may be just another chain.
mhm,
So, इसलिए it may not be possible to do very big, but as long as you can create a brand out of it, you know, it's okay. We don't need two companies ruling India in tourism. We need at least a lakh of
mhm,
them.
mhm.
Let many, many small entrepreneurs flourish.
So are you seeing that entrepreneurship, the youngsters joining in, becoming
I don't see in tourism sector. And I'll
Mhm,
tell you why. I have this report from an organization called NICE,
mhm,
which has a report on investments in the cultural space.
mhm,
And out of 1,300 crores or so that was invested, or 3,000 crores or something like that, that was invested in last year, only 2 crores went to tourism.
Okay.
Okay, now there are two ways to look at it. One is that tourism doesn't really need high capital, and
Acha.
lot of these are family based businesses, so they've not taken funding, which is great.
Mhm.
you know so we somehow look at funding as a milestone, which it is not. It's a binding. So there may be a lot of non formal funded in organizations which do not come into the purview of these reports. And the second is that nobody is really thinking differently in the tourism space for new ideas that can be funded. So both there may be a 50-50 reason for funding being so low in the tourism.
Mhm. So how to ignite that thinking differently in the space of tourism? Because
There are so many tourism institutes across the country.
Mhm.
I think every state has at least one, if I'm
Okay.
not wrong.
Mhm.
uh, we need to go there. It has to start there.
Okay.
There are a lot of tourism hospitality industry. They supply all the man force to
Mhm.
to the industry. So that's where we need to start.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I think this is a 360-degree view what Madam Anuradha Goyal has presented and given from all angles. She has touched upon the domain of tourism, and this is the interdisciplinarity which is perhaps needed at the educational level, and then linking it to the local economy, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, where the bulk of our students come from, and they can really as madam said that tourism is an umbrella industry. They can link up whatever enterprise they have. Like Mathura में पीतल की टोटी बनती है. So can we have a GI indicator की associating it over there and marketing it globally? तो हर
I'll give you an example.
जी.
Banaras as a city has about 8 to 10 GI tags
हम्म,
of its products locally
हम्म,
made.
हम्म,
But if you have to go and find those 10 products, you will not be able to find,
हम्म,
except maybe sarees and nothing else. More than half of them, you will have a difficult time finding. And tourist has a limited time in the destination. They don't have all the time to go
yes.
searching for it.
But with this, I would like to ask upon एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है, and before I ask this, I would like to welcome Professor Premrat to the session, and we would be having Madam Megha Balani's session quickly. So, ma'am, एक जो दिक्कत है कि tourism में everyone is a very small player. The state has its own infrastructural issues, the larger governance issues, and so forth. There is no interim agency to network. There is a within the spree of competition, the collaborative, the collective branding, the collective efforts, they are competing for their small chips, but they are not able to collaborate to create a collective out there. So, how to
I don't
accentuate that
agree. I
work?
don't agree. There is a event called Sate that happens around this time of the year in Delhi,
Mhm,
um, which is a huge event. Tourism agencies, anybody who's anything to do with tourism comes there, and they network. And this is an industry which is network driven. Unless you have networks, you can't sell. If I
mhm,
have to work with you, you are my agent in Delhi. I have to work with you. So this is a very high network yes, network wala industry. So, and there are enough forums. There is a tour operators association, there are Sate, there is this, there is that. But because most of the people entering are these people who have low entry barriers, who've not really educated, not really thought too much, none of them is thinking innovative.
okay,
You
okay,
go to those forums, all they say, आप हमारा कमरा बेचोगे कितने में, चलो रेट डिस्कस करते हैं. That's
okay,
all they are interested in. If
okay,
anything beyond that, they are not even interested in talking.
okay, okay,
So
okay.
the innovation is what is missing. The forums are all there.
Mm-hmm. Got it, got it, got it. I think, thank you so much, ma'am, for illumining this World Education Forum, and especially from a industry which is ubiquitous, which is present, like the manufacturers of the Nainital candles to whatever is small manufacturing, the Vishwakarmas, the artisans, and to the higher ups who are creating like multi-crore resorts and hotels. So I think a lot of learnings from there, and we hope to take it further and forward. Now I would like to bring in Madam Megha Balani, who leads a very special institute, the Global Music Institute at Greater Noida. And we would like to bring her from a very different perspective as to how music as a futuristic career option can be looked upon. Like music as a hobby, we have all listened, like कुछ तो तुमको बजाना आना. And I would like to welcome and pranams to Professor Premrat to join us. So please be with us. Your benediction would be great to receive out here. तो परफॉर्मिंग म्यूजिक इज वन थिंग, म्यूजिक इज अ हॉबी इज वन थिंग. घर में बच्चा अगर ज्यादा म्यूजिक करता है, अरे पढ़ना लिखना नहीं है क्या? बट देन दिस एंटायर ऑनलाइन स्पेस व्हेन अ लॉट ऑफ दीज परफॉर्मर्स एंड दे हैव गॉट वायरल, अपने पैशन को परस्यू करते करते दे क्रिएटेड देयर बैंड्स, देयर चैनल्स, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. एंड वी coming from a techno engineering background, we said that okay, musical engineering is saz bajane ka, classical instruments, the I would say the Yamahas of the world, can't we have the digital industry, the musical equipment industry in the country, the musical mixing part of it, the whole lot of career avenues, the IT people now people are saying that open chat GPT or open AI can really create music on its own. That's a another challenge which we are witnessing. So just a 360-degree perspective, that as a techno managerial student, how can I use my techno managerial learnings to curate a career in the musical space? Madam Balani.
I'll break down my conversation in two parts. I think first I'll like to address the part which you said in the beginning, how the concept of taking on music as a profession vis-a-vis looking at it as a hobby. And well, that's been the case in India. But if we look at it, the programs of BA music as part of our universities like Delhi University, Banaras Hindu University, Banasthali, have been around for a very long period of time. We look at fine arts. The program of BFA has been around for a very long period of time. The program of fashion design and technology with NIFTs and design with NID, all of these have been around for a very long period of time. So art has always been a very integral and a parallel mainstream, so to speak. It's just that I feel in our mindset culturally, the way we have, because of when the liberalization happened in 91, and then the banking sector opened, and then the onset of the IT boom that came in the early 2000, and obviously being a relatively young democracy, the concept of finding stability via a job which is secure, and therefore looking for IAS, civil services, having a doctorate or engineering or MBA, getting you that offer of having that, when you come out of college, you get a PPO, or you get a how much lakh offer you've got as a CTC. That's always been the draw of most of the people, because that's where we find that that's the security of life that you want. But if you look at the fact, music has been a part of our culture and heritage and our lifestyle for time immemorial. In fact, if it had not been arts, I don't know how our world would be. It would be quite dry, to be fair and honest. So institutions and places which allow people to foster that kind of feeling, and to know, yes, if you have that talent and ability, you can make a career out of it, is something that we also try to instill through our institute also. And it's not been easy. Of course, this has been something that we have been challenged with for a long period of time. In fact, we do this kind of analysis in our college, where we see that until 4 or 5 years back, the demographic that would come to study with our programs, because our programs are full-time college level diploma programs, the demographic which would come to study here would primarily be those who would have had some kind of bachelor's degree first, where their parents would have said, okay, if you really want to do music, first get a base of somewhere, so that you do have a backup option available. Then you go and do what you want to do for some time of life. But in the last 4 or 5 years, there has been a huge shift demographically, where students have started coming in to do programs straight after class 12th. They are very comfortable with the idea of, we don't want to, I think the clarity of thought, the availability of information and resources, which is now at the tips with the internet, and nothing in this global economy that we speak about, the source of information that is available to anyone, be it here or America, at the same point of time, the exposure to the styles and the concepts of music and the infrastructure has allowed people to make those kind of voyages even in the music space now, saying that if this is something that we want to pursue, that we can do it. But that has also got supported from the fact that when they see people around them making a living in this industry, gone are the days when our Bollywood, for example, was when you would look at any major award functions, we would have the key one or two people who would just be taking the maximum mantle of having those names. And I would not like to take the names, but then we know that, you know, if they are the people, they would always be the ones for playback, for music, for composition. But now, be it Bollywood, be the onset of OTT platforms like Netflix, Prime, Hotstar, Geo, the kind of content that is getting created, the kind of people that are getting involved in writing music, with singing, with composition, with playback, has grown enormously. Because of which there have become huge potential for a lot of people who have not got any connects, which people sometimes used to feel that these industry you need to have that kind of stepping stone to be able to get your inroad into it. A lot of people have started and got that kind of workflow coming to them from these spaces. Plus, what has happened is that these days the economy that we call is become more and more of creative entrepreneurship, where people are following multiple things. So it's not that you only are a producer or you're only a performing artist. They may be a teacher during the day, as an educator in some college or a school. They could be producing music in the evening. They may be a performer in the evening. They may have their own studio. They may be doing backing vocals. A lot of tech companies have now come in to answer the question of you, Raghavji. The AI onset in music has created a very, very new space where a lot of people are now creating different products for the industry. And there's a very interesting, uh, a subset getting created between those who have the technical mindset and the musical awareness to create those kind of places to formulate how people can distribute music, how people can market music, how people can publish music and produce music. So there's a lot of things happening on the business side of things also, which is bringing people from those sections come in and join in. So people have understood and realized that music is not just about being a performer on the stage. That is a very, very minuscule part of what it is to be a musical artist. An artist is much more than just a performer. And when a person understands the various spaces that are available to them, uh, they make a living as comfortably as anybody else could be in any creative space for that matter. So it would be unjust to say compare apples and oranges, where you can say, let's compare a MBA with this person. But I would say it's the same with, let's say, a person who is in the medical fraternity, or if it's an architect. If you have finished an MBBS, you wouldn't be just coming out to set up your own clinic. You will start working under someone, you will get that kind of experience. You might work under a hospital or under government. When you start to eventually come to a point where you can set up your own thing, it may be a while. Similarly, in a place like an architect, for example, if they've finished a bachelor's of architecture, let's say from School of Planning and Architecture, they may want to go for masters, they may want to but or else they will work under somebody, build their kind of experience, then come to a point where they get that kind of experience to be able to say, okay, now I can open up my set and be available for people to come in as an independent. So I think music has also got the parallels of that, and that's been happening. And that's where somewhere we have seen also with our alumni also coming on the doing fabulous things across the country and internationally. So that's something that has propelled us and people like us to then now look at. Now we have been working with the government in the last 3 years in building a high school curriculum for grade 9 to 12 in government schools for students who wish to pursue music, where they are studying English, Hindi, math, science. But should if music is an interest, then music becomes another subject that they study. So we have had students take grade 10 board exams in music, which is unheard of, which is for the first time that has happened. But we introduce it in a manner of saying that just as anybody knows English and Hindi as a language when we are studying in schools, music is another language. a basics of music, to be just able to understand, our country would do wonders if we can even have very informed listeners. Not everybody needs to become a musician, just understanding the language of what music is. And therefore, in these schools, what we are doing is we are teaching them fundamentals of Hindustani music and fundamentals of contemporary music. So it's just akin to learning English and Hindi, so that you can understand the basic concepts. And then after grade 12, if you feel this is something that you want to pursue further, go ahead and do it. No, none of us are saying that after 12th, you're an expert, you will become a musician to come on the stage. But it's just like learning the ABCDs and the Kakhagas and the adjectives and
The
the nouns.
musical intelligence, which is one of the
Yes.
eight
So
intelligences. Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, we can at least understand. It's like, हम कहते हैं म्यूजिक की अंदर शीट होती है, स्केल होता है, कॉर्ड्स लिखने की होती है. एक लैंग्वेज ही तो है ना. हम जैसे अपने स्कूल्स में स्पेनिश इंट्रोड्यूस करते हैं, जापानीज इंट्रोड्यूस करते हैं, जर्मन इंट्रोड्यूस करते हैं. एक म्यूजिक को लैंग्वेज की तरह भी पढ़ना एक सबके लिए बहुत अच्छी बात है. एंड देन वी हैव ऑल हर्ड ऑफ ऑल द researches that have been done, how music helps in better cognition, helping to relieve stress, helping to have better ability to cope with many other facets of life. So all in all, there's always a benefit to learning something like this. Some people may choose to make it a career. Some people may just do it for something that just helps
A
them to.
lot of musical talent is intrinsic in our geo-cultural locales, as Madam Anuradha Goyal would agree that a lot of folk music is out there which might not be recorded because Spotify, the story of Spotify, which we all saw, that all the performers, they started getting challenged that their value has dropped down phenomenally, and the platform is benefiting out of it. A small subscription fee, and you on your mobile have all the numbers out there. So in the context of tourism,
Yeah.
what are some of the ideas which you think are getting implemented, or that will bolster the tourism index of the various or maybe
Yeah, I mean, and something I was actually going to add to Anuradha ji's point. In fact, and she mentioned how Rajasthan has been a great state which has done that. And to add to that, there are so many music festivals of different kinds that happen in Rajasthan. And to give you a perspective, we have Jodhpur Riff Festival, which gets people from different folk spaces. We have Udaipur Jazz Festival that happens, which is, as you can understand, is a jazz. So it brings world jazz together. We know of Jaipur Lit Fest that happens, which features many different arts form of different music setups of any kind. In Kutch happens a festival of, I'm forgetting the name, but what happens is that a lot of these music festivals catering to that brings in that tourism also with them, because what it is a very interconnected, and I am very much with Anuradha. These all things are very interconnected of how sometimes each region can have its own feature. We have, for example, a very big festival which has now become a shape is Serendipity Arts Festival, which happens in Goa, which again has taken a big shape in the cultural space, and that has brought a big tourism to Goa. There is another festival that happens in Kochi. It's called Kochi Biennale, which is an art festival which happens once in 2 years, and that again has brought a huge tourism to that space. And now place things like India Art Fair that would happen in Delhi, for example. They have started curating music events also in it. All of these kind of and music is not alone. Music is a part of the culture. So when we talk about art space, we have visual, we have performing arts, we have visual arts, we have film and graphic and design arts. All of this put together in any city helps to really push out forward the tourism of that city. I mean, I was very happy to see recently there is a big push in Red Fort, and there's a whole new exhibition that has been put up, which is there until March. And a lot of fascinating works of architecture has been put up there, and artwork have been put up there of different people, which again helps to culturally put that city on the map and bring in not just the culture and the tourism very intertwinedly together on that front. So I think
And
they
maybe
all
the
work
hotels
very.
and the resorts which are benefiting from their high
Yeah.
tariffs of incoming tourists, they can patronize some of the local performer ones, and maybe some kind of a guideline can be issued because they want to be on their profit making spree. But just to support the bottom line artisans, I would say the performers, they can really provide the platform.
that is there. I would like to give you an example just recently, and that's incidentally an interesting way, because that series is releasing on Geo next week. There is an organization called Anahat Foundation, which works for the upliftment of folk artists across the country, to providing them the platform of allowing them to put their music, getting them the due publishing rights, and helping them to produce and promote the music. So what they did, under an aegis of an organization, of a support of organizations funds, they brought 7 folk artists from different regions of the country. There was one from northeast, from south, from west, from every part. We had 7 different artists, and then there were 7 indie artists. Indie meaning many pop or regional or more popular music artists, and each artist was clubbed with one indie artist, and they came together to make one music together. And they shot that beautiful music. Incidentally, it was shot in our campus, and they have made a whole series out of it. And it is getting now released on OTT platform, and it is also being put up for various film festivals. So to showcase that how folk artists are also getting different platforms now to space out. So it's not just can be, it need not remain only in their domain, in their own region, which of course it should be. But then just like you have craft melas, where you different have craftsmen coming in from different cities and coming to showcase their craft. Similarly, these folk artists can come together to showcase their art form from different places in one forum, and kind of come together to show, okay, these are the cultural heritage of our country, which can all, you know.
Lovely. And we should really like to put it out here that the Global Musical Institute, founded by Madam Megha Balani, happens to be the standalone musical institute, a daring step perhaps, covering music in all its splendor. And we at Rethink India had the great good fortune to expand music to mathematics. Professor Parag Bhargav is Manjul Bhargav for the drafts at the NEP, one of the great exponents of music and mathematics. And then music and medicine is yet another field where clinical musical therapies are being developed at Chennai, one of the Chennai Musical Institute. We had an interaction out there. So we really wish you all the best. And tourism and music. So it is truly the interconnectedness of various disciplines which constitute the higher education. And it is on this foundations of higher education, we really create a strong economic footprint out there. Now, from the interconnectedness of the various disciplines, भारत में कहते हैं साहित्य, संगीत, कला विहीना, साक्षात मनुष्य, पशु प्रच्छहीना. So you need to have at least one competency from literature, music, or arts, and any one of them, it enriches you. And obviously, it's an era of economics. So the interconnectedness would work very, very fine. We now welcome for I would say, the interconnectedness of the institutions out there. India's higher education space has expanded phenomenally over the years. And just on day 2 of the World Education Forum, we were informed by one of the scholars that we have close to 1,200 plus universities. And if we count upon the state technical universities and the affiliated institutions under them, I think the quantum is phenomenally high. 27% of our population, the GER is 27%, and it amounts to around 41 lakh, 4.1 million youngsters, of the order of the population of Australia. So one of the questions we asked, the category of institutions what we have in the country. We have at the topmost level the centrally funded technical institutions, the IITs, IIMs, NITs, triple ITs, the whole top-notch league of them. Then we have the private universities, deemed universities. Then we have the state universities and their affiliated institutions. So,
Raghavji, can I take leave? I'm sorry, I need to rush somewhere.
Sure, ma'am.
Right?
Thank you so much for being with us. Yeah, thank you so much.
And Meghaji, I would like to be in touch with you, have a conversation. So Raghavji, if you can exchange
Sure, ma'am.
details.
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you. Namaste.
So Professor Premrat is one of that very unique scholars, the Pitamaha of higher techno managerial education in the country, the founding director of IIT Roorkee, went from Thomson College of Engineering, the University of Roorkee. He took on the baton of this 2G of higher technological institutions. Sir was also the Kulpati of the Uttar Pradesh Technical University, which happens to be the largest, because Uttar Pradesh, the complexity, as we can see it over there. And his very quality framework, what he introduced in those very early times, we can say without any reason of doubt, constitutes the kind of the NIRF framework, the ranking frameworks, whatever we have. He was the first to introduce that ranking system in the UP Technical University affiliated institution. Sir is currently the chairperson of Board of Governors at IIT Dhanbad, the Indian Institute of Mines, which is now the IIT CADA. So we pose the question as to how these various levels, various genres of academic institutions collaborate in terms of facilities, funds, and faculty. People feel there is a kind of a caste system out here in our higher techno managerial space कि भाई आईआईटीज को तो 400 करोड़ रुपया मिलता है, एनआईटी को इससे कम पैसा मिलता है, स्टेट टेक्निकल यूनिवर्सिटी बेचारा स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से फंडेड है, सेल्फ फंडेड है. पर ये जो वास्ट पूल है, एंड देन वी हैव द इलैबोरेट, आई वुड से, R&D एस्टैब्लिशमेंट in every geocultural locale of the country. We have the CSIR labs, one place or the other. We have the DRDO labs. We have the ICAR labs. ये जो पूरा भारतवर्ष का जो हायर टेक्नो मैनेजरियल तंत्र है and the R&D establishment, how it can interface, how it can collaborate. And जो कल हमारा क्वेश्चन था, which Madam Saundarya Rajan we said, कि how can higher techno managerial institutions give support to the government, to governmental developmental programs. हमको बाहर से consultant लाने की आवश्यकता क्या है? If we have that kind of an expertise out here, so in this context, I would now request Professor Premra to deliver his keynote address and his mesmerizing presentation so that we can take it further and forward. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Raghav Mittal and Dr. Surabhi. The topic that you had given to me actually was difficult even for me, but then I'm used to taking challenges because this topic truly confirms to your theme of your organization. It will call for a really rethink and a major re-engineering of higher education system in the country, and it fits in very well with the implementation strategies of the NEP 2020. So it's really very relevant, although it was not something for which I could just speak. I had to put in efforts, and I prepared few PPTs because this morning Dr. Surabhi told me that it will be helpful if I have PPTs. So I'll try to see. I normally get stuck in sharing them. In case I do, I have sent a copy to Dr. Surabhi, but I would like to steer it myself. So if you give me the permission, let me first try if I can. Yeah, it's there. It's there. It's there, and then I share. I think it's good. I think perhaps it's there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You're able to see that. Only thing is that your layout does not let me see the whole of these PPTs myself. Let me see. Are you seeing it now?
Yes, sir. We can see. Yeah.
No, but I'm not able to see. I'm able to see only. Yeah. इसको कुछ हो गया मेरे का. Anyway, just see some addition. Okay, I think so. There's nothing like free lunch in life. Yeah, इसमें आ रही है ना मेरी? Yeah.
Sir, we can see, sir. Yeah.
You can see. All right. If you can see, then all right. I'll then. I'm not able to see, but it doesn't matter. I just wanted to state it myself.
Sir.
But in case you are able to, what I'll suggest that I'll speak and you keep on shifting for effective coordination. If you're able to see, Dr. Surabhi has the PPTs, or
No,
you
share it from our end, sir. Yeah, we will share it from our end. Sir.
Okay. Now, let me get to. So I must thank you for giving me this, which to me in the initial stage felt that it's slightly, it'll take a lot of my time, but then my time is worth attending to on issues which are relevant. I also heard very briefly the two presentations just before me, and I was wondering whether I might be a totally disconnect to this. But then later on, I thought that perhaps I'll try to fit in those two also within the domain of the presentation theme that you're giving. Now, as I mentioned, that the theme that you have given is almost an integral part of the implementation strategies of the NEP 2020, which indeed is a transformative synergy, which indeed is thinking very out of box. It's a kind of the policy that the national education policy is truly transformative, and maybe a game changer. In that context, I wish to present this integrated tapestry of inter-institutional connect across genres of institutions in the same local. So the key word here is the total spectrum of institutions in the same locale, on the same state, which means that the basic uh, uh, distinction that used to plague the mindset of people is that the government institutions and the private institutions, and normally the private institutions not being looked at very kindly by the perception. This theme really takes care of those issues very effectively, and therefore, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, that there are a wide spectrum of things like the IITs, the ISM, the ITs, IIMs, state universities, deemed to be universities, private universities, in the same locales. And this number, actually, the number of private institutions is almost comparing with the other government-funded institutions, both centrally and state-wise. So right now, the scenario is that uh, there's almost an implicit isolation of each of these institutions. We, in general, we are not known to be interacting with even by our neighbors. That's the kind of a culture that has come in. So even within the IITs, the various departments of the IITs are not very enthusiastic in sharing knowledge and connecting with each other, even at a departmental level. Then amongst IITs, perhaps the interaction amongst IITs again is not that much, although by structure there are certain compulsions when each IIT has to interact with other IITs on a common thing like the JE, the GATE, and the common the meetings of the directors of the IIT Council. However, the interaction of these centrally funded technical institutions, CFTIs as they are known, uh, if you look at the vertical direction, uh, is almost missing. For example, not many IITs would like to collaborate or interact with NITs. That's a separate caste system that you mentioned. NITs in turn would not like to interact with the state engineering colleges or the affiliating state technical universities or the private universities or the deemed to be universities. And in turn, the private universities would not like to interact with private colleges unless they're affiliated. And they in turn would not like to affiliate with polytechnics and ITIs. So in general, there is almost an implicit absence of such an interaction, which indeed should be there for transformative change that the NEP 2020 really calls for. And therefore, as a result, this collaborative paradigm really needs to foster a symbiotic relationship, which has a potential to redefine educational indices. Indeed, as I said, the moment you look at reengineering, although the task is difficult, but the benefits are enormous. And therefore, that's why I have subtitled it as Opportunities and Challenges as the subtitle of the theme that you have given to me. And therefore, there are tremendous opportunities that reside in this theme that you have given. And as a result, in this context, this collaborative paradigm fosters an environment where academic and research excellence is not confined within the walls of a specific institution, which indeed is the basic theme of your the theme that you give to me. And therefore, this calls for every institution, irrespective of the nature of the ownership or the levels or the prestige value associated with it, they need to interact both horizontally and vertically. And this, if this happens, is bound to be enormous usefulness even to the higher rung institutions as well as to the lower rung institutions, if I may use the term. And therefore, as a result, in this theme, there is a unique dynamics of coexistence that we must appreciate. In cities and states hosting a mix of central or state funded technical institutions and a privately managed universities, there exists a rich ecosystem of knowledge. While CFTIs like IITs and IIMs bring forth unparalleled expertise and research capabilities, private universities contribute to the diversity of programs, pedagogical approaches, and the real world industry connections. The coexistence of these institutions within the same geographical space creates an opportunity for a mutually beneficial partnership. Indeed, here I would like to link up the two previous speakers. One, I believe, was in tourism, and the other one was in music. Now, as you know, that one of the important requirement of the NEP 2020 is to give a freedom of the students to choose certain options, electives, and in order to have a multidisciplinarity of their content and the freedom to choose, many of the aspects of the students are encouraged to choose music as a subject, as an elective subject, that they're asked to choose tourism or hospitality as an important subject. Now here lies the connection between what they were saying and what I'm saying, and the opportunity that it gives you. For example, if a student wants to take a as one of the open electives as in music, they may not exist an expertise in IT, and it may not be economically worthwhile to create a separate department of music and the kind of infrastructure and the talent you need to have to give that opportunity of taking an elective. And therefore, if such an open elective can be taken by that student from a renowned musical institution in the neighborhood or a renowned hospitality sector in the neighborhood, then the basic purpose of creating that exposure to the multidisciplinarity in the most economic manner is feasible. And this is only possible if we really try to have an open mind in not considering music or tourism really outside the domain of technical education system, because that's what the feature of the NEP 2020 says. And if this happens, then the primary objective of this institutional connect is to create a collaborative educational environment that transcends institutional boundaries. This requires a major change of mindset, because unless the major change of mindset takes place, it will not be feasible. And that's why, in fact, these are the challenges that we need to overcome. Therefore, the scope extends beyond traditional partnerships, encompassing joint research initiatives, interdisciplinary programs, and shared resources. By leveraging the strength of each genre of the institution, we aim to create a dynamic ecosystem that nurtures holistic learning and innovation. This indeed is a great outcome, and therefore the benefits of such a purpose is, in fact, it lead to diverse learning ecosystem, access to broad spectrum of academic disciplines and programs, exposure to varied teaching methodologies and perspectives. It lead to research synergy in terms of collaboration on cutting edge research projects, which some of the less funded institutions or less endowed institutions can't afford to have the kind of facilities and equipment which are world class, which reside in the CFT institutions. And therefore, as a result, this synergy would enable even the less fortunate institutions in the private sector to have access to such cutting edge research, because ultimately the reason I'm saying, I've been advocating for quite some time to do away with the distinction of ownership. The only ownership should be quality institutions and non-quality institutions. And therefore, even there, we don't ignore quality, non-quality. The quality institution must do hand holding of the non-quality, so that through the osmosis process, the quality of less less funded and less renowned institutions also improve because of the osmosis process, which indeed the higher technical education systems can therefore provide that osmotic. Therefore, this synergy would lead to shared access to the state-of-the-art laboratories and facilities, industry integration by way of facilitation of internships, placements, and industry academia partnerships, and joint entrepreneurship programs fostering innovation and startups. The challenges, of course, as I mentioned, the benefits are enormous. That's this, the opportunities. The challenges and the mitigation strategies for this would be, while the vision of this cohesive educational ecosystem is compelling, it looks so great. Challenges such as institutional cultural differences, administrative complexities, and varying academic calendars may arise. Addressing these challenges requires a strategic approach, including establishing clear communication channels, formulating joint committees for effective coordination, developing a unified academic calendar to facilitate seamless transitions. If the calendars don't match, there'll not be, in fact, there'll be no possibility of this collaboration, and a uniform grading system to facilitate academic bank of credits transfer. As you know, as a part of the NEP 2020, a person can take a credit from anywhere and these get transferred to the host institution from where he'll get a degree. And this is only possible more effectively, although there are conversion scales given in that the policy note for but if the grading system is uniform and the credit system facilitates that to happen, then this transition would be far more easily done, because there'll be common a grading pattern. And therefore, in the process to mitigate these challenges, to exploit opportunities, let's look for, although they might be very limited case studies, let's look for whether there exist any such initiatives elsewhere, because therefore we need to develop case studies of instances where deep inter-genre collaborations have yielded tangible value. Whether this has succeeded somewhere, do we have even a single success story in this? Because if we come across such a success story, this then becomes a benchmark which can be easily emulated by the rest of the systems, and therefore there is a need to look for, identify such success stories if they exist, and which could include shared research centers, joint degree programs, and collaborative outreach projects. These case studies will serve as benchmarks for inspiration, illustrating how these partnerships can go beyond theoretical framework to practical, impactful outcomes. Then the future trajectories for addressing these issues. The future of this interinstitutional connect holds exciting possibilities. As technology continues to evolve, the role of virtual collaboration, such as that we are doing right now, shared online courses, and global partnerships becomes increasingly significant. Embracing these trends will enable institutions to stay at the forefront of educational innovation and global academic discourse.
So
now, in order to implement these, I give you two implementation strategies, which indeed can perhaps become a slogan for Rethink India to address this issue in an absolutely fundamentally. I've been saying it informally elsewhere, but then let me propose, in order to create that, let's also look at a vertical integration, not only up to the university, but go down to the colleges, polytechnics, and therefore here one of the very powerful strategic roadmap could be, which indeed in terms of slogan I call it from ITI to IIT. Now, normally many people in the society are not able to distinguish the two. Sometimes they misspell ITI to IIT or IIT to ITI. Instead of blaming them, let me connect the two. And therefore, if we are able to have this collaborative mindset and a vertical integration, it's possible to have a transition of an ITI student, which is the Industrial Training Institute, eventually going up through vertical integration of their collaborative framework to eventually get a degree from IIT system. And therefore, if we create this from ITI to IIT, this indeed would perhaps complete the framework, where there are certain strengths that IITs have, there are certain strengths that ITIs have, because the kind of a skill set and the kind of practical orientation and the hands-on training that the ITIs have, and IITs have the strength of higher technical education system in terms of research, and therefore, if we have such a transition, the product coming from this route would be enormously wonderful. Now, for example, if you look at the ITIs, their strengths are vocational training institutions that provide hands-on training and skill development in various trades and crafts. They are designed to equip students with practical skills and knowledge necessary for specific jobs in industry. These are the strengths of ITI, which IITs don't have. These ITIs courses typically spend 1 to 2 years and cover a range of trades such as electrician, fitter, machinist, plumber, and more. Emphasis is more on imparting technical skills that make students job ready upon completion of their program. And ITIs play a crucial role in addressing the need for a skilled workforce in different sectors, contributing significantly to vocational. Now, right now, very rarely an IIT would think of interacting with ITI. But if we have such an institutional framework, and then these are the strengths of the ITI on one spectrum. On the other hand of the spectrum, you have IITs, which on the other hand are premier engineering and technological institutions, known for their academic excellence, research contributions, and producing graduates with a strong theoretical foundation in engineering and sciences. So their practical orientation, their theoretical orientation, if the two can be integrated, that's where you produce an outstanding knowledgeable but practical engineer or technologist or scientist in the country. IITs offer undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral programs in various engineering and technological disciplines. Curriculum is designed to provide a comprehensive understanding of the core principles and application in these fields. And it's a highly competitive process. Maybe an IIT level caliber would not be able to make into IITs straight away ITI level caliber. And therefore, if you have this transition and a mechanism, it's possible for a person who enters at the ITI level and eventually through sincere hard work and commitment and focus can eventually graduate from IITs too. And I do have one such example which happened in IIT Delhi, which I've seen it myself, and that's why I got an idea. We had a student in IIT Delhi in mechanical industrial engineering. MTech was my student. Later on, he even obtained a PhD called Dr. Chaman Singh is his name. He started his career as an ITI. From ITI, he went to the diploma route. From a diploma, he did AMI. And from AMI, he got into MTech in industrial engineering in IIT Delhi. And then got into PhD, and therefore can imagine the entire spectrum. So there at least exists one example to my knowledge where such thing is a possibility, but there is no institutional framework where this can be done. There is no MOUs or collaborative framework because it's maybe a very rare kind of a example, and therefore, as a result, if we can combine the two, this transition reflects the flexibility and interconnectedness of the practical skills gained at the ITI level and subsequently delve into more theoretical and research-oriented aspects offered by IITs, which is the example that I gave you. It underscores the importance of a diverse educational ecosystem that caters to the varying needs of students, whether they choose a vocational path or an academic pursuit in engineering technology. Then the second important theme that I'm proposing here, giving an implementation framework of the aspects is, how do we collaborate at the same state level? I'm proposing a hub and spoke model to implement the interinstitutional connect. Now, the interinstitutional connect, the hub and spoke model serves as an innovative framework that facilitates meaningful partnerships between diverse institutions. This model envisions a central hub, typically represented by a prominent institution such as an IIT or an IIM, fostering interconnected relationship with various spokes institutions. The component and dynamics of this model to understand how it can be instrumental in creating a collaborative educational ecosystem is now I'll propose. The hubs are the nexus of excellence. The hub, often represented by a leading academic or research institution, serves as a central point of coordination and collaboration in the context of premier institutions such as IITs and IIMs. The hub exudes excellence in research, academics, and industry connections. It acts as a catalyst, driving the collaboration agenda and providing the necessary leadership and resources. The roles of the hub, therefore, would be coordination. The hub coordinates and facilitates coordination initiative between spokes, institutions, and the hub. It becomes a resource hub. It shares its wealth of resources. These are for more fortunate institutions, very liberally funded by the government of India, including research facilities, expert faculty, and industry partnerships. And it also performs the role of leadership, nurturing leadership in the other spokes, like which includes private institutions and private universities, deemed to be universities, state universities. The hub therefore provides a visionary leadership to guide the collective efforts of the interconnected institutions, so that they are nurtured in providing a visionary leadership, which is indeed there's an enormous need for a visionary leadership at those spoke institutions, at the deemed to be universities, at the private universities, at the colleges, state universities, and so on and so forth. Therefore, the role of the hub would be to coordinate, provide resources of faculty and research research, and the leadership. The spokes, in turn, would provide you the diverse institutional partnerships. For example, as I said, they could be, if somebody wants to study music, the spoke could be a music instrument institution. The other spoke could be a tourism. I'm just trying to connect the two topics so that my little presence there at least enabled me to link up the two, so that nobody says that you have collected unrelated speakers in your seminar. Now, therefore, the spokes represent a variety of institutions, including private universities, community colleges, and the other academic bodies within the same geographical locale. Each, each spoke institution brings its unique strengths, perspectives, and resources. Now, why you chosen same locale? Because in terms of the logistics and convenience, it's more easy to connect with institutions in your neighborhood. That's why, in fact, in private, in part-time PhDs in IT Delhi or part-time MTech programs, we put a limit. If you're residing within 50 kilometers of radius of IT Delhi, then you can enroll, because the locale means that the logistics convenience actually gets facilitates such a collaboration. Otherwise, if they are from a very far off places, the convenience of logistics and other convenience will not be there, and that's why as a result, each spoke institution brings its unique strengths, perspectives, and resources in collaboration, forming a rich tapestry of educational diversity, which indeed may not, and therefore the diversity in these spokes would be private universities contribute flexibility, varied programs, and industry connections. Colleges and polytechnics will bring accessibility, foundational education, and local community engagement. And the research institutions will bring enhance the research and capabilities of the interconnected ecosystem. And therefore, if that happens, this collaborative channel, the connective tissue would be the strength of the hub and spoke model lies in its well-defined collaborative channel. We have to clearly, and that's why I try to identify the roles, therefore, such as joint research projects, shared academic programs, cross-institutional events, and technology platforms for information exchange. The collaborative initiatives can be through joint research projects, like researchers from hub and spokes collaborate on interdisciplinary projects. Maybe some of the major projects given to IITs, we run into tens of crores. Some modules can be outsourced to let's say a lesser endowed institution, and so that there could be project-based collaboration. There could be academic exchange programs. Students can benefit from diverse educational experiences across institutions, with the example I gave of music and tourism. And the joint events and conferences with shared platforms for academic discussions, idea exchange, and networking. In order to facilitate this to happen, you require a communication infrastructure to ensure seamless connectivity. To ensure effective collaboration, a robust communications infrastructure is crucial. The hub and spoke model emphasizes open channels for dialogue, regular meetings, and the use of digital platforms to foster seamless connectivity. The communication strategies to implement this model could be regular meetings, periodic meetings between hub and spokes to discuss ongoing initiatives and future plan, and digital platform utilization of online platform for real-time communication, document sharing, and collaborative project management. Now, the impact of such a topic that you have talked about, synergy, ought to be measured, because otherwise we may be only talking in air without nothing much happening on ground, because everybody says we must collaborate, but we do not. Therefore, there's a need for having to measure the success and growth of such an initiative, and as an integral part of the hub and spoke model, a continuous assessment to measure the impact of collaborative efforts must be made. We must identify the key performance indicators that may include impact, improved student outcomes, increased research publications, and enhanced community engagement. Because unless we measure the net outcomes, and for that we may have to define certain performance metrics as a key performance indicators. For example, student success in terms of graduation rates, like GR you mentioned, employability, and student satisfaction. Research impact in terms of citations, publications, and collaborative research grants, and community engagement in terms of initiatives that contribute positively to the local community where we exist. And therefore, if we do that, I have a feeling that this, although a difficult thing, it calls for a major transformational mindset. But if that happens, the benefit will be tremendously win-win-win for everyone. And therefore, in conclusion, the collaborative connect between CFTIs, state and deemed to be universities, and private universities within the same locale is not just an ambitious concept, it's a pathway to revolutionize education. That's why I'm saying truly transformational in nature. By combining the strengths of premier institutions with the adaptability and diversity of private universities, we create a dynamic learning environment that prepares the students for the challenges of the modern world. It is indeed the spirit of NEP 2020. Definitely an implementation framework. The interinstitutional connect hub and spoke model envisions the future where institutions of diverse background collaborate seamlessly for collective progress by leveraging the strength of each institution within the interconnected network. The model fosters a dynamic educational ecosystem that prepares the students for the challenges of the modern world, promoting cutting edge research and strengthening community ties. And therefore, in this collaborative journey, the success of hub and spoke model relies on commitment, openness, shared vision of all participating institutions, and a mutual respect to everyone, and not looking down upon a tier, second tier, three tier, fourth tier. They all are important nodes in the collaborative engagement. And through this model, therefore, we can truly transform our educational landscape and create a legacy of interconnected excellence. This, I thought, is some of the random points of view, because when you gave me this theme, I was wondering whether to accept it or not. We call for doing some fairly good amount of homework at my level, but
Oh,
I'm used to accepting challenges. And therefore, I thought of saying something. Whether it makes sense or not is your take, but I have done whatever I think is possible in the kind of the domain of the topic that you gave to me.
think sir
Thank
has
you.
given a
Thank you.
complete blueprint for the interconnectedness of the entire genre of institutions. And uh, Prime Minister on 11th of December, when he came forward, that the higher education institutions, all the Kulpatis were present behind all the governors, the Kuladhipatis of the various states, to take on the Vikasit Bharat Sankalp Yatra. And as sir mentioned, that case studies, and I personally have been connected, and that has an IIT Roorkee connect, that when I was serving Braj Bhumi, I was also serving parallelly as a dean planning and management at one of the UP Tech institution called BSA Technological Institution. We from IIT Roorkee brought about the expertise from the Department of Water Resources. They were doing a research study of the kunds, of the water tanks of that region. Professor ML Kansal and his team of doctorates, they created a water balance model, but they could not be present for data collection on the local side because Roorkee and
Yeah,
Mathura is
yeah,
quite a
true.
longer distance. So they gave that charge to the civil engineering students out there. The computer science students were connected to use that GPS coordinates in those early times when we did not have the smartphones, the Garmin ones. And then IIT Roorkee and a BSA Connect informally could be orchestrated.
Yeah,
So
true.
so what you said is giving the bigger challenges to the IITs. For example, I am Kashipur, if it has to brand destination, and then it can incorporate a couple of other institutions in Dehradun
Absolutely
or
true.
Kotdwar or Dwarahat. So
Mhm.
those students at the tier 3 level of the institutions can collect the ground data
Yeah,
and
true.
get and be there in the research continuum. In Singapore, like the National Technological University of Singapore, they send their students on metro to collect the data. They don't hire consultants. It
Yeah,
is the higher technical institutions which are given the mandate directly on nomination basis. There are no tenders for consulting for that matter.
yeah,
And if the expertise of a techno-managerial institution is not up to that mark, then only you go to the larger consulting organizations. I think Sir has really, as usual, a phenomenal framework, and for us to really drum it, try to evoke. A lot of experiments are going all across, and when India, 672 districts are there, and we have got 1200 universities and various other institutions in every nook and cranny. Educational campus can become a city-wide. The smart cities
absolutely.
would become smart only when the educational and research institutions over there would start interconnecting. And Sir has really given that entire policy framework and entire operational framework, a phenomenal personality of operations management, Professor Premrath. He has really given the nuts and bolts of how the last every, I will say, implementable module. And from the Ages of Word Education Forum, we would be presenting this framework to the concerned authorities, regulatory ones as well, from AICT to UGC, Professor
Yeah,
Jagdesh
true.
Kumar and others, that let us give autonomy. And one more thing, sir, from your
Absolutely.
aspect, we have an IIT Council, we have IIM
Yeah,
Council, we have an IT Council, but we
yeah,
don't have a State Technical University Council.
yeah. We
Because
don't have that.
they are the ones who command. Professor
Yeah.
Onkar Singh was there just a day before yesterday. So the
Mhm.
State Technical University Forum, which actually comprises of the largest number of techno-managerial institutions in
Yes.
every nook and cranny of various states, They are the ones who connect with the MSMEs. They are the ones who really go to the last mile. Perhaps that is something which you can take it up at.
Yeah, that's the only the CIT Council comprises of the institutions governed by central government.
Yes, yes,
State
yes.
technical universities, the states are the
Yeah,
controllers. So unless various states come together like the GST Council,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's an example is your GST Council,
Yes, yes,
which
yes.
indeed comprise of the finance ministers of all the states on a common platform. Using that similar analogy, you can have the state technical education council, and therefore that's already an example and fairly reasonably working well. GST council is working reasonably well amongst even varying ideological in the governments.
But
With
perhaps at a state level, we can converge the various genres of institutions to create a kind of a
yeah,
higher technical education council or
yeah,
whatever
at
name we
state
call it
level,
at a
absolutely,
state level.
that would be worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because even one state university doesn't interact with the other state technical
Yes,
university.
yes,
So then I'm
yes,
saying that in general,
yes,
it doesn't naturally come to us to
yes,
interact with something beyond us,
yes,
and therefore maybe if an institutional framework and associated incentives and enabling clauses, that means permitting less fortunate institutions to have access to the facilities. Because to me, why I've been saying all through that this distinction must vanish, and I'm happy that in the NEP 2020 the distinction in private and government to some extent has vanished, although our mindset have not yet changed fully. Because the moment I was at a fairly good degree of respectability, so long as I've been director of IIT Roorkee or professor IIT Delhi, to some extent, maybe in vice chancellor UPTO. But the moment, since my passion, my enthusiasm, my energy hasn't waned, but in government you have a expiry date on tail end. So therefore, I had to join private universities as chancellor,
yes,
and pro chancellor doesn't have an expiry date because uh, so the moment you are in a private universities, your mindset to incorporate you into the national level policy framework is totally out. So same person is treated very differently. So we need to come out of this mindset, because ultimately the purpose of both private and government is to do national, to me education is a nation building process. And whichever route you take, what is important is to develop outstanding individuals, great citizens, and good human beings, whether this comes through a government route, through IITs, or it comes through private universities or colleges. To our objectives of being the same, and therefore this mindset should be that involve people of quality and ideas, irrespective of their ownership, whether they belong to a private sector
lovely,
university,
lovely.
and that mindset change hasn't yet taken place.
In fact, in the space of governance, some experiments of the inter-service rivalry. A lot of IPS officers we are seeing, they are adorning the desk of joint secretaries and additional secretaries. So from the policing, they are being brought about in general administration, which
Yeah,
used
true,
to be the
true.
confines of IAS earlier. So the
Yeah.
other services, IRS and others are being given. So perhaps this churning, this manthan, this interdisciplinarity, interconnectedness do come. And thanks a lot. I would request Dr.
Thank you.
Surbi to pass the formal vote of thanks on
Thank
this
you.
penultimate day of World Education Forum.
Thank
I
you.
think
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I take this opportunity on the day 4 Fascinations of the World Education Forum 2024 to thank our savants, our dignitaries who have graced the World Education Forum. Anuradha Goyal ma'am from Inditails, Megha Balani ma'am from Global Music Institute, Dr. A.T. Kishore sir to talk about the Drone Academy, drones, and Professor Prem Rath sir, who has such in a profound manner laid a policy blueprint for the country to follow. I'm sure this is going to be heard and emulated at various levels, and we would do our best to incorporate these policy nuts and bolts to push this further and get it followed. And this is really really mind-boggling, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Raghavji. All the best. Take care. Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot, sir. Thanks
It's
a lot.
always a pleasure to interact with you.